Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Ghost Education 101. I'm excited to be joined by Stephanie, who will be doing a presentation on EVP analysis. We're looking forward to that one. I've actually got a sneak peek at it, and it's really good. You guys are going to make sure you want to tune in. And in case anyone's watching the replay, make sure you stick around until the end. And I just noticed my lights went funky on me, and I don't know what's going on.
You got the spirit in your house.
It's like during the introduction, all of a sudden I lit up. But anyway, and I'm also joined by Philip. So if you guys have any questions during the presentation, feel free to ask. I'll be monitoring the questions. And then at the end, Stephanie will be available to answer them, as well as Philip and myself. So Stephanie, real quick, why don't you give everybody an introduction as to who you are for those who don't know you?
I'm Stephanie. I work with Philip. I'm on his team, Georgia Paranormal Investigations. And I am the one that likes to go through whenever we collect evidence, and I like to document it, and I like to analyze it and go through and pick at it. So I have picked up quite a few things doing that, and thought it would be a good idea to share because there is not a whole lot out there regarding EVP analysis. So it's kind of to have something out that we can kind of go back to and refer to.
Yes, I needed to know how to do what she does because I don't know how to do it. So that's why I asked her. It was kind of a selfish reason. I said, can you do a presentation on how you analyze our EVPs on the graph?
Oh, the spectrogram. Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everybody. A win for me and for everybody that gets to learn and watch this.
Yep, exactly. And so Stephanie, whenever you're ready, just share your screen and I'll pull it up on the...
Let me just make sure. I apologize in advance. I was having some issues with my computer. It did not want to behave. So let's see. Right.
We've never had that happen before.
I know.
Nope. And while you're doing that, Philip, Jeff wants to know, have you experimented with cat balls?
Oh, yes, most definitely. One of my favorite things
call them? I know you do.
Yeah, we call them spirit balls.
Spirit balls.
Spirit balls.
I like crystal balls, but spirit balls.
I prefer cat balls, but
no, please.
Spirit balls. Spirit balls.
To me, I know this is too much, but if calling it cat balls just sounds like something the SPCA will be on us over.
Oh, good point. Yeah, those cat balls were really lighting up over there. What were you doing with it? Never mind.
Okay, so Heather, I think I'm going to hit share entire screen. Right?
Okay. Yep, it's present, share screen, and then a window will pop up, and then it's you want to share the window, not the screen.
Oh, the window. Okay, that's what I was.
Because if you share the screen, then it won't share the audio. But if you share the window, it shares the audio.
I got it.
So
we learned that the hard way last time.
Something new.
No matter how many times you do this, it's like when you have to do it again, you forget.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so just a little background for those of you that are new to the field, just diving in. EVP, what is an EVP? It's an electronic voice phenomenon. And we like to define that as a disembodied human sound or voice that comes from somewhere that we don't know where it comes from, unknown origin. It's heard through and or captured on electric audio devices. And for this context, unknown origin means it did not come from the environment or the humans present at the time EVP was captured, and it cannot be explained by a natural or physical cause. So that's how we are defining unknown origin in this context. Okay, a little bit of background about EVPs. Now, before Frederick Jurgensen, there was a gentleman, I think his name was Bales. I could be incorrect about that. He discovered it, but then it kind of got lost. Frederick Jurgensen rediscovered it in 1959. And he was just out and about. He was tape recording birds. And he just happened to go back and review that audio, and he found a voice. And he did not know where this voice came from. He thought it was odd and strange. He kind of shuffled it in the back of his mind. He didn't really give too much thought about it. But he captured more voices. And so the more he started to review, he heard these messages that came through. And he realized that those messages were from his deceased mother. And so this kind of started the EVP movement, and he was known as the pioneer of electronic voice phenomena. Now, he wrote about his experiences in a book, and he piqued the interest of a Latvian psychologist named Konstantin Rode, and I might be saying his name incorrectly. So if it could be Radiv.
Raude.
Raude, okay.
Raude.
So Raude reading a book that Houston wrote called Voices in Space. And he became very intrigued. And the two paired up and they started working together. And they discovered a lot together. They collaborated with other researchers. And then they kind of wanted to go their separate ways. They had a difference of opinion on some things. And they decided to separate in 1969. And this is Frederick right here in this picture. Now, after he and Raude separated, he still continued his research all the way until his death. I believe it was in 1987, I believe it was. Okay. And same for Raude. When he separated from Jurgensen, he continued his extensive research. I mean, this man lived and breathed EVPs, and he collected, analyzed, and studied over 100,000 recordings. He also published his own book. His breakthrough book was An Amazing Experiment in Electronic Communication with the Dead. I don't know if you can see, got a window blocking my view down here at the bottom. Let me see if I can move it. There you go. Okay. He claims that he captured recordings of people like Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, in some of those recordings that he had. It's a very extensive collection. If you are lucky enough to find some of the recordings, they're sold out and very, very rare in some places. But you can live those recordings in a collection. Those EVPs were dubbed Raude voices, even though he really didn't discover them or rediscover them. But parapsychologists preferred to stick to a scientific term, and so they continue to use electronic voice phenomenon, or EVP. But I will hear some people refer to them as Raude voices. Come on. Skip one. There we go. Okay, so EVPs started out as an idea of communicating with the dead or deceased human spirits. Now that has since evolved, and some people believe that EVPs are from human spirits who have passed, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings from a different time and or space. Some people believe that they could be angels or demons, depending on who you talk to. Now, these are believers, that are that these things are what that is. The skeptics believe that it's just meaningless white noise, radio frequency interference. They also claim that it could be technology artifacts, things that get left behind or imprinted on recordings as you are transferring or processing your sound files. Now, there's a lot in the scientific field that believe that the existence of EVPs is just a result of psychological phenomena. And you will find research on EVPs, but for instance, when I went to go look, I found more research, more papers written on the psychology of the person who collected or reviewed the EVPs, people who believe in EVPs. There's more research on the psychology of the person than there is on actual electronic voice phenomena. Part of what the psychological phenomena is they believe that people who tend to hear EVPs is something called apophenia. And it's very similar to auditory, I can't even say the word right, to pareidolia. And it's the tendency to perceive a meaningful pattern or to look for a meaningful pattern or connection for something that isn't there, that our brains can't process useless information. So it tries to make sense out of that information into something that does make sense. Auditory pareidolia is just like visual pareidolia. People can look for patterns in pictures or visuals. They see images, they see faces. Well, for auditory pareidolia, people hear the words or music in that recording that are actually not present in the sounds you are hearing. So sometimes you hear something and perceive it to be an EVP when it's actually not. It's something else. There's also a concern for priming. It's the influence of the person seeking the EVP. If they've worked themselves up to go into a situation where they just know they're going to hear something, they just know going to hear something in a certain context, they're priming themselves and they're influencing what they could be hearing. So we have a lot going against people who believe in EVPs. EVPs are very subjective. They're not widely accepted because we can't prove that they're there and their origin is from a spirit. Hopefully with this type of research, we can kind of pinpoint some qualities and characteristics of EVPs, and maybe down the line, we'll develop some technology that will allow us to say, yes, that is a spirit speaking to us through this device. For now, they're very subjective. I may hear something completely different, and Philip will listen to the same audio recording, and he will hear something on the other side of the ball field. And it happens. It happens all the time. There are studies that look at subjectiveness of EVPs. In 2007, Tom Butler conducted 3 listening trials on a group of people. What he did was he chose 5 Class A pre-selected, predetermined EVPs. So they had already classified them. They had interpreted those EVPs beforehand. They gave them out. I think it was an online survey. That's how they conducted it. And once they reached, I believe it was 100 respondents, they stopped taking submissions from people and they analyzed the data. What they found was, out of all 3 listening trials, was that only 25.5% of the recognized words were in consensus throughout the whole group of people. So that's where it comes into being subjective. It's like that experiment where, you've got 10 people standing next to each other, and the first person in the first position whispers to the guy in the second position, and he says, something like, if it ain't fried, it ain't worth eating. Something that Garfield used to say. By the time you get to the 10th person, it's a completely new sentence. And that just happens. But what they did before they gave the EVPs in this study was they asked the respondents some questions based on their experience. Are you a believer? Are you a non-believer? Do you have any experience in the sciences? Do you not have any experience in the sciences? So it kind of gave them a demographic of the people that were answering the questions from these trials. Now, the people who are believers and who had backgrounds in EVP and investigating did score higher than those that did not have any experience. I don't know what to say about that, but maybe they just have better hearing, or just a knack for picking out EVPs, picking out the words and making sense out of them. Another reason why EVPs are not widely accepted as evidence is because there's often not a speech science included in the analysis. And by speech science, we mean, analyzing the utterances of the sounds and the words that are being formed or that are being perceived in the EVP.
If I can interject, it's almost the same as why science doesn't want to investigate the paranormal and ghosts, because we haven't proved ghosts exist or that the soul survives bodily death. So it's along the same lines. Until we prove that, they're not going to accept this as a voice from the dead, in my opinion.
Yes, exactly. Because to accept this would be a premise to accepting that there is life beyond our plane, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. A little slow. There we go. Okay. So how are electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, collected and captured? There are two types of devices. Type 1 devices are your digital recorders, your cell phones. You see a picture here of a security camera right here that picks up audio. It records audio. So it could be any device that will record audio that you can go back and listen to later. Here we've got body cameras. Body cameras record video and audio. That's a very good thing to go back and listen to as well. Your typical investigators will always have a digital recorder on them. I say you can use a cell phone too, because it records audio, and we have picked up EVPs on cell phone recordings that we've gone back later and reviewed. Your type 2
old-timey cassette recorders are fun to experiment with. I have gotten EVPs on an old cassette recorder that takes the mini cassettes. So anything that can have it get an imprint or have audio placed on it can potentially pick up an EVP.
Yeah, the one thing with those old tape recorders and some of the recording audio devices today, you didn't have that option to transfer a file to your computer so that you can
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And a lot of the cassette recorders are very loud, which is also a problem. But if you just want to experiment, they can pick up EVPs, but you've got a lot of noise from the tape moving, the machine moving. But it is something fun to experiment with.
It is. The best thing to do if you're, try not to walk around with it in your pocket, because it's just going to pick up everything. As you're going to, it's best to start it and put it down on a flat surface. And if you need to move to a different room, you pick it up very carefully with your hand, but don't ever put it in your pocket. And then just set it down somewhere flat where you're not touching or holding it. Because any type of movement or contact with that device is gonna pick up on it. Our type 2 devices are ITC devices. Those are your instrumental transcommunication devices. And most commonly known here, you see the picture there, spirit boxes, like your PSB7, your PSB11s, Ghost Box. A most notable ITC device was called the Frank's box. And that one is very rare. So if you happen to get your hands on that, that's a great thing. Definitely got bragging rights right there, just like Philip. And then you've got apps and other things called EchoVox. Now, with a spirit box, you don't have an option to record. And you can't transfer files off of a spirit box, at least not the one I have.
I will say that the S box from Ghost Stop, you can insert an SD card and it will record. So the S box you can, and then you can put the SD card into your computer. And I love the S box because it also, you can use it as an audio recorder alone or as a spirit box. Okay. Are you there?
Yeah, that is a good option because when I use my spirit box, I have to make sure I'm either being recorded with either a camera or another recording device. Now, I don't have experience with this particular Echo Vox. I know that there are some applications out there that do record the same time that they are doing their sweeps, but I don't have any experience with those. I prefer to stick with the Spirit Box or the Ghost Box ones. They're easier to use. I don't have to download an app on my phone because you try not to want to use your phone during an investigation. But some people do like to play around with those.
The Echo Vox, out of all the apps, other than the one that I did for the ITC group, is one of the most reliable ones out there because of the amount of combinations you can use on the sound bites. The statistics on actually it getting something, a false positive, are so high. There's a video on YouTube about the Echo Vox. Someone took it apart and said that it's one of the most reliable as far as ITC apps go. And you can put it on a tablet because that instead of your phone. So that way, if you want to use it, your telephone's not on, your cell phone's not on. But it's also not cheap for an app. It's $20 or $30, I think.
Yeah.
But out of all the ITC apps, it's no full words. It's all little itty bitty bites of sound. I mean, I personally have had some really good results with it. I don't use it much anymore. But I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's great. Does it do the sweeps like a Spirit Box does, or is it using pre-programmed words?
It's no words, but it's several banks of sounds, and there's slides. You can pick 1, 2, or all of them, or none of them, and then you can shuffle them. There's so many combinations of scrambling them that it's almost impossible for it not to be something when you get, I mean, I've gotten full sentences before. So, and Jerry on our team, she and I together have used it for some personal ITC work, and it's just kind of mind-blowing. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Philip. No, you're good. That's why I like having you on with me. Okay. Wake my computer up. Now, EVPs are categorized into 3 classes. Class A is the best quality. It's easy to hear, and it is less subjective. If 5 people were able to hear a Class A EVP, it would be very easy for them all to make it out and come into an agreement of the interpretation of that EVP. Class B EVPs are similar to Class A, but you might need a little help, a little direction to make it out. It's still clear, but all EVPs are somewhat subjective, so even a Class B is subjective to a degree. The Class C EVPs are the ones that you know there's something there. It's kind of inaudible. It's hard to hear, very vague, and it's very subjective. When we are presenting EVP evidence to a client, we tend to stick with the Class A's and the Class B EVPs. We want Class A's, but if we find something that is very easy to make out, we think they'll interpret the same way as we do, we'll include a Class B. But we tend to stick with just Class A EVPs for the best quality. We also because EVPs are subjective, we don't tell our clients what the EVPs say. We will give them a recording of about 10 samples. We will play it in raw audio footage first. Then we will amplify the EVP. That's the only thing that we do is amplify, because amplify just means we're raising the sound. We'll play that sample 2 or 3 more times with the amplified sound so that they can hear it.
Also, on the ones that are amplified, most of the time on the 2 replays, I will slow them down by 20%. But we do not adjust the pitch, the tone, or any of that. It's just slower and louder.
Yeah. Now, we might say this is what we think they sound like, but we don't want to influence their interpretation of it. So most of the time, we will not tell them what we think what they say. We will just leave it up to their interpretation. If they come back and say, hey, well, I think this says, hey, or my name is Susie, then we can kind of come to a consensus and agree on whether or not it says that. But we try not to just throw out what we think it is, because we don't want to mislead our clients. If it's a message from a loved one or a deceased family member, we certainly don't want to give them misleading information. We don't want to do that. It could have dire consequences. Okay, so for this next part, if you don't have headphones, you're going to want to grab some, because I'm going to play some samples for you, and you'll be able to hear them better through your headphones than you would just through your computer's audio. You might be able to hear them, but you'll get better experience with the headphones.
And when we send the client their evidence video with EVPs, we always say, please listen with headphones.
Okay, so I'm going to play the first sample for you. We're not going to tell you what we think it sounds like. I'm just going to let you listen to it for a few times. And I mean, if you want to write down what you think it says, yes, great, go ahead, because we will be going over what we think they say in the next slides.
Person downstairs.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over and touch this antenna like you did earlier?
I'm going to go back to the first one. I don't know why I played the second one. Let's see. Oh, no. So, of course, when I want to be interactive, my computer does not want to cooperate.
You on your feet yet? On your feet yet? On your feet yet?
I'm sure it's user error. Let's see if I can go back and play them for you again.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over here and touch this antenna like you did earlier?
Oh, that one popped up.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over here and touch this antenna like you did earlier?
I hear it because I know when and where that was.
Yeah. Now, for some reason, that first sample does not want to play. There it goes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a person down the stairs.
Let's see. Every time I change the page, I think it makes it better. I'll play that one again.
There's a person down the stairs.
Okay, that was speech sample 1. Try this one again.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over here and touch this antenna like you did earlier?
And now for speech sample 3.
Do you have your teeth yet? Have your teeth yet? Have your teeth yet?
Okay. So for that first sample,
Stephanie's laughing.
no, stop. So this is what we think that first one says.
There's a person down the stairs.
Yeah, is it different when you see what we think it says?
Stephanie's laughing.
Yeah, you become influenced. So if that's not what you thought it said first, but you do now, that's why we feel it's important that we don't tell people what we think it says. We would like for them to listen and make that interpretation themselves. All right, for the second one. Now this one was a little bit difficult for, I know for Philip and I, because I thought it said something else.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over here and touch this
Yeah.
antenna like you did earlier?
I'm curious to know what everybody thought they were.
You have to give the context of why it would have said that, which if you know, then it makes sense why we think it said that.
Well, it's a very funny story. We were at the LaGrange Legacy Museum, and it was myself and a gentleman named Alex. We were in the, I believe it was the library. And you know, it was just me and him. And there is another gentleman who actually was bald.
Who works at the museum?
Yeah, he does work at the museum. And so it, you know, I thought it said, "I love the tall one," because I just figured it was referring to Alex in the room, and Alex is a tall gentleman. He's taller than me. But when we went back and analyzed it further, we were all in agreement that this is what it said. I love the bald one. And actually the bald one got the most activity that night. He actually got a lot of reaction from some devices and in an office down the hallway. So he was probably trying to tell us that, you know, he didn't want to talk to us, that he wanted to speak with the other gentleman.
The bald one is very spiritually aware. He actually runs the ghost tours in town. So he has a relationship with the spirit. So, you know, I think that had something to do with it.
All right, let's check the third one. All right, so let's see if you can hear it now, if you didn't hear it before.
Do you have your teeth yet? Have your teeth yet? Have your teeth yet? Teeth yet?
Now, if I had to classify these EVPs, I would say that sample 1 is a class A. Sample 2 would be more of a class B for me. It may be different for somebody else who listened to the same recording. They might have better hearing. They might have, just have a knack for picking up EVPs and for picking up how, words are uttered. Sample 3, I would say class C, class B would be reaching, because it is much harder to make out.
On sample 3, you're asking, did you move your piece yet?
Mm-hmm.
Because you hadn't. There was a chess game or I forget.
Backgammon.
Backgammon. You had moved the piece and was, you were seeing if the spirit was going to play a game with you, and you asked, did you move your piece yet? And he said no. So that context makes sense, as that's an EVP. It's a direct reply to her question.
It shows intelligence too.
Yeah, so we know this is hard coming through the computer. They sound, if you've done EVPs before, they sound much clearer on the original audio coming through the computer and the internet. It's not going to sound as great. So, but headphones help.
Yeah, they do. And a quiet environment. You don't want to be reviewing when your dog is barking and your kids are running around and the TV's going in the background. You're not going to be able to hear.
No, you want noise canceling headphones. My headphones, I can't even hear the air conditioning vent when it's running with my headphones on.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, Philip, if you wanted to, we could share the direct files to Ghost Ed on Facebook, in case they're having trouble hearing it through the replay on YouTube.
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh yeah, I have them. I don't know who to send them to, but I can send them to somebody. We can post them.
Philip can do it.
Just waking for, okay, there it goes. Wake up. Okay, so if you've listened to EVPs long enough, you will notice that they have certain qualities. Usually EVPs are just a few short words or short phrases, like hey, or yeah, or no. We get a lot of get outs. They will sound like soft whispers, and they're just very quiet like. Sometimes when we're reviewing audio, it's like the person was standing right next to the recorder. I'm sorry, person. I should say spirit or entity. It's almost like they were standing right next to your recording device. Or, if you've got a very good video camera, it's like they were standing right behind it watching you. But it's very soft and clear in most cases. Some of the EVPs will start off with a very strong energy. And they'll be loud, so you'll be able to hear that first part or that first word, and then they'll get softer and weaker and trail off, and sometimes you won't be able to make out the ending of that phrase or the rest of whatever they're trying to say. Now, this is not something that is set in stone. EVPs, we have found through our experiences when we've gone back and reviewed our audio, that they are energy dependent. And what that means is we will capture more EVPs when we have team members in the room, or when we're running around doing our setup and we're putting our equipment up, versus when we have vacated a house or an area and there's no one there. Usually if it's very quiet, we're outside or we're far from the area that we are investigating, we will get very few EVPs. If we do, they're very soft, very weak.
Some parapsychologists will argue that we may be self-manifesting these EVPs and projecting them onto the recorders.
Yes.
I mean, how do we know if we're not or we are? I mean, it's psychokinesis or telekinesis. So that's one theory that people may argue, like it's you that's doing that. It's like, yeah, I don't think I'm that smart.
It would be a good experiment, but how would you go about conducting it? You would have to be like writing down your thoughts every time you had something hit you, or come through your mind. It would be, you'd be standing with pen to paper the whole time. I don't know that you would have time to project.
If you can compare that to poltergeist activity, where it's psychokinesis, but the agent is not aware that they're doing it. So there's different ways to look at this. I personally believe that they're spirits. I don't think that we're self-manifesting these myself.
Oh, I'm right there with you. Yes, I'm right there with you. And I'm definitely a believer. I'm a skeptic to a degree when it comes to debunking and eliminating a natural physical cause for an EVP. Only because, when we put this out there, we're going to be scrutinized. We're going to be scrutinized, and people are going to come at you and you're going to say, oh, that's a car horn going off outside, or that was Bill standing across the room, whispering. So we really try to scrutinize our own reviewing when we go through here, so that we can present a strong case for an EVP. We want to be able to say
that. You're getting into details in a bit on how to go about doing that.
The fun stuff, yeah.
Yeah. The stuff I always ask you to do.
Now, we don't always just get one or two words or short phrases. We have captured full sentences, longer phrases that were 5, 6, and 7 words long. Those tend to have pauses in the middle or throughout the sentence or the phrase. Sometimes it'll start off strong and say, "Don't tell," and it'll pause and you're like, "Me? No." Or, we captured one on the last investigation. It said, I believe it said, "Philip told me not to." It was like a very prominent pause in the middle of that EVP. And that's pretty much a quality that we've found when we have documented those longer phrases. They'll start off strong with a couple of words, then they'll pause, and then they'll continue on. I'll wake my computer up. Let's see. Okay, so just to give you a little information about the characteristics of a human voice. And it's important because when we're reviewing our audio, we are picking up what we perceive are human voices. Now, we measure frequency in hertz and kilohertz. Now, a hertz is the number of waves passing a point at each second. And I'll give you a visual in just a second to help you visualize that. The typical vocal frequency range for a male is between 85 and 155 hertz. But that doesn't mean it can't go higher. They can go up to around 6,000 kilohertz when they're being loud and excited. Females, their voices range between 165 hertz and 255 hertz. Now, this is a normal tone of talking. We're not shouting, we're not whispering. This is just a normal tone. And children tend to fall in the range of 250 to 300 hertz. Now, there are instances where male voices will be picked up at lower frequencies. And I think that's just biologics right there. They can get, they have deep voices. So it makes sense.
There's some baritones that can get a little lower, like opera singers. But how many opera singers are going around at an investigation?
I know, right? The typical range that we have found, now there is no concrete number. If you do all the research and you spent all day looking, you will not find one document that states an EVP's frequency is between this and this. You're not going to find it. But through articles and research of investigators who have reviewed EVPs, have found that a typical range for an EVP is between 7 and 20 hertz. Very much lower than a human voice frequency. And there are other visual patterns that you'll see in just a second, where you can kind of get when you're looking at the analysis on the spectrogram, you can kind of visually pick out what is a human voice versus a suspected EVP. Now, I sourced this down at the bottom. Now, some people might be better at picking up EVPs than others because we have a very wide range of hearing, and we can detect sounds between 20 and 20,000 kilohertz. So, we have a very broad range of hearing, and it varies between humans. I'm not going to hear the same as maybe Philip. He might have better hearing than me, so he might have a better range. Okay, so the first steps is going out there and capturing an audio recording. You've listened to it. You've noticed you've got something there. You suspect it's an EVP. You've logged it, however you or your team logs it on your documents, and you want to do a more detailed analysis, visual analysis. Now, you can download software apps such as Audacity or WavePad. And down here, we've got Adobe Audition. That's another really good one. You don't have to pay money for these apps. I know Audacity is free. WavePad offers a free version. They also have a paid version. I like to use Audacity because that's just what I started out with. And I have learned how to use it and go through the analysis that way. And I'm a Taurus, so I'm very stubborn and just want to stick with what I know. There might be something better out there, but I prefer to stick with Audacity just because it's my preference. Excuse me. Okay. When you transfer a sound file into, this is Audacity here. Okay, just because that's what I use, you will see what's called a waveform. Okay, this is sound in its visual aspect. Okay, and this is what you see: peaks and troughs, and right here in the middle, that is called your line 0. Line 0 is where there is no sound. A waveform will have these peaks. They are the highest form. I'm sorry, the highest position above this rest, that line in the middle. The peaks below this middle line is called a trough. They are the lowest position. Then you have amplitude. That is the maximum displacement of a point of a wave from its rest position. And that's usually going up. Your wavelength is a distance covered by a full cycle of the wave. It's usually from peak to peak, or down here below your rest, trough to trough. Now we can see a sound file, a sound recording right here. This is just a little bit. We can see it, but we can't determine its frequency from this waveform. So we can hear it, we can see it, but we are not going to get a frequency from here. You can also shorten your sound file in this waveform. You can cut pieces off, you can make it shorter and only focus on one particular area of your sound file. Frequency of a waveform is what determines your pitch. The more waves per second, the higher the pitch. So if your peaks are at the same height, but you have more waves per second, you're going to have a higher pitch. You can have one complete wave go to the same height as the next one. They'll be the same size, but it doesn't matter. More waves means a higher pitch. A waveform that has a higher peak is higher in amplitude, measured in decibels. That is your volume right there. When you see a spike in your waveform, right, like right here, means it's a loud sound. Like we said earlier, amplifying the audio increases your amplitude, but it does not change your frequency or wavelength. So you can amplify it to make it louder. It will not alter the frequency or the wavelength. Those are independent of amplitude. Now, this is the spectrograph in Audacity. In addition to your waveform view, you can also view it this way. And this gives you a better visual of what's going on. Now, this is the Audacity layout here. Over on this side, the vertical axis, it represents the frequency range. And here in the middle of the screen, you can see all these colors. Well, this black color up here, that's no sound. There's no sound going past the 6K mark up here, except for a little. When you get further down here to the lower end of the frequency range, you get more color, more density. And the horizontal axis at the top, that measures your time. If we look at the waveform side by side with the spectrogram, this is what you would see. And this is actually one of the samples, one of the 3 samples that you heard earlier. Let's see if we can follow along as you listen.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over here and touch this antenna like you did earlier?
Okay. Now, I'm not going to show you where that EVP is just yet. You might know where it is visually. If you don't, that's okay. I'm going to tell you in a second. Now, if you look right here, this is my voice. Okay, this is my voice here as well. You can see some visual patterns. The way that my voice carries as it goes up the frequency range. So I start down here, but then my voice will carry up, looks maybe about 14,000 kilohertz. Okay. You see those ripples. Those are characteristic of a human voice. The suspected EVP here is right there. Okay. It is lower on the frequency scale. It does not go any higher. It does not go any higher like mine. Mine went pretty high for that one. And you won't see this rippling effect.
Stephanie's laughing.
Sorry, it played by itself. Okay. So I've kind of highlighted this right here for you so that you can see the density in the sound. So this is my voice. It's a little bit bigger of a picture, so you can see the ripples there as I speak. And this over here is also my voice. And you can see those ripples in my voice a little bit better. Those are very characteristic of a human voice. If you were to analyze the recording of a cat meowing, it would look something similar to this as well. And then this is our suspected EVP. That's where it shows up. I can further analyze this by highlighting it in the tool, and I can do a plot analysis. And that's what you see right here. Okay, this will give me the frequency of the suspected EVP. Okay, and that is right here where I've plotted it. Where I've plotted it, you can see the frequency right here is 11 hertz, which is still in between that 7 to 20 hertz range. Here is our suspected EVP, and I've highlighted my voice after it as well, so you can see how it compares to what I think is the EVP. And this is my voice over here speaking. So if you wanted to back up what your initial review is with a visual aspect, the spectrogram is an excellent tool for doing that because it will give you the frequency range, and that's something you cannot get from the waveform or from your audio reviewing. It'll also help you eliminate a natural cause. It could be, anything really. Now, this is an EVP. We ruled out everything we could to debunk it, and we could not. So our interpretation is that this is an EVP. But other sounds that show up could be a device. I think at the end of this recording, you could hear.
Stephanie's laughing. Can you come over here and touch this antenna like you did earlier?
Okay, so you hear that sound at the end? We can eliminate sounds like that by using a spectrogram. We can document and kind of catalog the sounds that our voices make from our team members, what our equipment sounds like. If our REM pod was going off, I could see it here in this view, catalog, and kind of take that signature for a future reference. You can also eliminate sounds like dogs barking, trains, the air conditioning kicking on, because that will be at a much higher frequency than this is EVP. Okay, I'm gonna move this one out of my way. Okay, so this is not something you're going to find just written down anywhere. These are things that we've learned over the course of investigating, that we have kind of into guidelines as best practices. You won't find anything out there because there is very little research to discredit speech heard in EVPs. Like we said, if they validate and say those in effect are discerned spirit voices, then that's a premise. That is the premise for acceptance of life after we leave our physical body. What we suggest and we do in our own practice for our team is we have devised guidelines for EVP collection during our investigations. Part of those guidelines is that when we conduct EVP sessions, we must all be present in the area of the EVP session in front of the camera, facing the camera. That way, our mouths, we can see our mouths. We can see if somebody's making a noise, if they went, oh, or if they whispered. If I picked something up, I think it might be my teammate. I can go back and review camera footage. I prefer using camera phones because of the context and because I can see who's present, who's not present, who's facing the camera. Did they knock a table, when they walked by? If they were on the floor, did they grunt when they got up? So those visual clues are very helpful in debunking and verifying whether or not I've got a suspected EVP. If somebody is not present in front of a camera, or if they're not in the area we have noted, we cannot use that particular piece of evidence, because we can't say that, oh, well, we know it's a suspected EVP because we were all in the room, we were all in the camera, no speaking, nobody made noise. So if we are missing people, or if we can't say those things, then we can't use that particular piece as evidence. If you are in a session and you hear a knock or a bang, the AC has kicked on, notice a train going by, you want to mark those, say it out loud at the time you heard it, so that that sound is marked for reviewing. Excuse me. Take a sip of water. That helps the person reviewing the video file kind of decipher, did I really hear somebody slam the car door? Or did Joe go outside to the garage to grab a piece of equipment? Somebody's laughing, you want to mark that too. If you notice that you're laughing, you definitely want to mark. And our absolute number one rule is no whispering during an investigation or a session. If you do, you need to mark. And you need to say, Stephanie was whispering, or Stephanie was laughing. Someone's in the next room and you can hear them whispering. You need to mark that on your recording file so that you don't inadvertently use that as an EVP evidence. Whew. Let's see, next page. Okay. The reason why we do these things is because there is so little evidence out there. We want to be able to come into the scientific community with some credibility, and eventually, hopefully one day, all of this hard work that we've done will come back and get us some credibility and recognition in the scientific community. We're not very widely accepted. We get laughed at a lot of the times. My husband laughed at me earlier before I came on here. Just something that we've learned to live with, and we just want to be better. We want to get better. We want to have that door to the scientific community where they finally say, "Oh, got it right." Hopefully. A big part of what we do when we present EVP evidence is method consensus. And that was a term coined by Dr. Mark Leary. He also conducted listening studies just like Ms. Butler did. And what he found was that EVPs are so subjective, and we are influenced by context and by people telling us what they think they hear, that it was not in our interest to do that. So he came up with a method of consensus interpretation, where you would share a piece of evidence, an EVP evidence, amongst a group of people, your team, it doesn't matter, a group of people, and whatever they interpreted that piece of evidence to be would be a consensus of what that EVP is. You want to be very careful with that, though. Like I said, if it's a message that's coming from a loved one or someone that has passed away, you don't want to mislead someone or give the wrong message, and it could just have very dire consequences. It could really change an outcome for them. We also want everybody, this is so important, to debunk. If you have to review multiple cameras for the same time, same sound, you need to do that. That extra mile, do the work. Go back and review your recorders, your body cameras. If that it might be, some voice and they inadvertently mumbled under breath. If you are using a guideline, everybody has to be in front of a camera, facing a camera. We have to know where you are. You'll be able to do that as human interference and not an actual EVP. We want people to take us seriously. We want to be able to present this evidence to the world. Say, yeah, we're communicating with a discarnate human. Or, if you believe in ETs, ETs, interdimensional beings, what have you. Hopefully doing these things will get us there quicker. I don't think I've ever spoke that much in my life.
And you can also, or am I on? I don't even know. Am I here?
You are here. Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to.
Yeah, all of a sudden StreamYard just stopped for a minute. You can get residual EVPs and residual sounds. It doesn't have to be an interactive, intelligent spirit. You can, I don't know if we went over that when I went air dead. No pun intended. Like we got the gunshot at the last investigation, and we were thinking, oh, maybe it's the toilet flushing.
Yeah.
Well, the toilet flushed all night long and it never showed up on any audio. And we checked all the other cameras and it didn't show up on any of the other ones except for the one audio. So it's very interesting.
When you're doing that, people feel kind of scrutinized, like you're coming at them. But really what we're doing is, if we can't withstand scrutiny of the scientific field, of people who are skeptics, if we can't withstand that scrutiny among ourselves, we're never going to be able to do it, on the outside. So we want to be able to say that, oh yeah, we looked at every angle. We covered all of our eyes. We crossed our T's. We looked at everything we could before we present something as evidence.
Did you mention about how we tag noises?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you went over that while I was in outer space here. Okay. Yeah. Like stomach growling, a chair moving.
Sleep, everybody.
Can you start over? I missed part of it now.
And the tagging is very important because, we had one location that we really wished we could have used video cameras, but it was a location that we weren't allowed to use video anywhere. And we know as a team that we actually put the digital voice recorder on a display that was at least 6 feet away from everybody. And there's a sound that could have been someone's stomach growling, but that far away, we know it wasn't. But it sounded like a growl.
Yeah.
But we can't prove it because we weren't allowed video equipment in there to prove that was that far away from us.
Well, I've captured growls before that there were two of us in a room and neither one of us were making a sound. And that's a very frightening thing to record, is a growl when there's nothing there. That's an animal that you can see. It's also kind of exciting.
Philip knows all about growling stomachs. We like to go out to dinner before we investigate. And so if we had a very heavy, rich meal, there'll be 5 of us going, that was my stomach. That was my stomach.
I've got a crazy stomach. Yeah. And a growling stomach, even the slightest, can pick up on a digital recorder and sound like a growling tiger in the jungle.
So that was your stomach when we had Bishop Long on.
No. I don't know if that was me or not. I don't think that was me. That was
remember when he was doing his presentation, we got that growl?
That was not my stomach. Because that freaked me out. We were talking about demon children.
He was showing the photo of the demon that he captured.
I was like, what was that? Where's my holy water?
Probably Bishop Long's back, and he was like, nobody heard that.
And I'm like double thinking. I'm like, did I have my dog near me or nope? She was in another room.
You can tell you're an investigator when you're like, oh, I need to mark that.
And I had an incident happen on an investigation once. Now, this kind of rebukes the thought that it's a random radio wave or TV wave when I'm standing there and I'm feeling hot breath breathing on my neck, like you know,
Hello,
from there, and then you hear help. Now,
Yeah.
a rogue TV sound is not going to breathe on your neck.
Nope.
What is the possibility of the randomness of just a rogue radio wave coming in at that moment and intelligently answering a question that I just
or saying a specific name of someone in the room,
or counting down with you.
or counting down with us. Yes.
No.
Yeah, that's what you guys need to do from now on is, not eat before the investigation and be like, growl if you're here. And then hold it next to your stomach and be like, caught.
We bring enough food that if we get stranded, we'll be fine. We are.
I don't know what it is. Our last investigation, we had tables, just tables, I believe, food, donuts, cookies, crackers. Are you getting
I'm always
out of
picked on because I bring licorice with.
Oh, yeah. We just love to eat while we're investigating. Keeps you awake too.
Yep.
That
That and lots of coffee. Real quick, we do have some questions that I want to get to before we forget what we were talking about. But earlier you were talking about EVPs, and Jerry wanted to know, do you think that those with paranormal abilities are more likely to hear EVPs?
I think they're more open to grasping the thought that it's an EVP because they're a believer and not a skeptic. So,
and that's when you're listening on a recording device. If you're hearing with your physical ear, that's something else. That's clairaudience. So if you've got abilities, you might be able to hear that EP projected onto an audio device. You might be able to hear that way. And yeah, you could. It has happened with a group.
And real quick, before I get to the other questions, before I forget this, hopefully, Larry, I need to get in touch with you because I need to get you on another episode.
Is that
you said
Larry?
Yeah, my cop friend.
I love him.
He says, excellent discussion. Sounds like our groups with similar investigative philosophies. Thanks for a great show.
I hope he's still on here because he really needs to come back and do another. Because I really enjoyed his presentation.
Yeah, I was in touch with him before my knee surgery, and if you saw my to-do list after my knee surgery, I'm like, I feel so bad that it's taken me like 4 weeks to get back to people, but he will be on again this season for Ghost Ed.
Yes.
Nice.
And I'm hoping to get back to Vero Beach to do a live show from one of his tours because he offers tours in historic Sebastian.
Oh, it'll be so much fun.
So, yes.
There was another good question. I hope you probably caught it.
I tagged them all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And real quick, I know you talked about it, but remind everyone what platform you use for EVPs.
I personally use Audacity. It's just something I started out with. It's easy for me to use because I'm already familiar with it. But you can use any platform that you get in. If you like Adobe, use Adobe. If you're familiar with that, then that's what you can use because it does the same thing. WavePad will also do the same thing. I'm sure there's a few more others out there. I just named a few.
But I have to say, if everyone on your team is using the same platform, it's easier to send a video, audio to somebody. Because if they've got the program installed on their computer, it'll just come up. If it's something else in another, app.
Oh yeah, something's a watermark.
Get this open, yeah. So it's nice to have everybody on the same platform. It just makes it easier than, oh my God, I gotta figure out how to open this because I don't have WavePad.
The one big thing with Audacity is I can take a video file and drop it in there and it will extract the audio from it. And I can review it that way. That's why I like Audacity. I don't know if the others can do that, but once I learned how to do that, I was like dropping and doing everything.
Yeah, I know when I did my EVP certification program through IMHS, even though they talked about the other programs, the one that they actually had us work on was Audacity.
And it's free.
Everything Stephanie shared is what they trained us to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they come out with updates and newer versions of the time. So it's not like it's an old, dinosaur of an application. They're constantly upgrading it.
Okay. And Sunshine had asked, do spirits use the sounds around us to manifest EVPs, like the word is spoken with the fan that is on, etc.? It's not their real voice box.
In my opinion, spirits will use vibrations in the environment. Let's say your refrigerator's humming. They can use those frequencies of sound to form words. We noted on one investigation in LaGrange that the railroad tracks were so close to the building and the train went by regularly. I don't know, every hour. And we think that really enhanced the amount of EVPs we got because we got so many that night. So that sound of the train coming and going, and plus the kinetic energy from the train itself and the train tracks. I mean, I personally think they'll use whatever is in the environment that they can.
Yeah, sounds are energy. So the train is coming by. It's giving up a lot of sound. It's giving a lot of energy. It's going to use that to manifest. Running
water, dripping faucet. And I have friends that experimented by leaving the faucet dripping to do EVP experiments. So we've tried an EVP circle last time, something I want to try, where we all sat in a circle and held hands and did the EVPs. Didn't seem to make a difference because we didn't get any answers during that EVP session, but we got plenty during the investigation. We have 14 standard EVP questions we do every investigation, just as a control to see what answers we get. And when we have some weird questions in, like, where's Elvis, to see what kind of answer you get. And then we'll target specific EVP questions for the situation, but we always do our standard ones as kind of a control experiment.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be just like the white noise from a spirit box?
Yeah.
The same thing as having...
And you can get EVPs on top of spirit box white noise. That's happened before.
Okay. Joshua, no, can you explain ITC for some of us out there?
Instrumental transcommunication. And there are subcategories of ITC. You'll have audio ITC, which is EVP's spirit box. You have visual ITC, which can be anything from scrying, as long as you use an electronic instrument like a video recorder. Video loopback, where I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, where you'll create a white noise on screen, basically, for spirits to come through visually. So there's different subcategories of instrumental transcommunication. But that's such a mouthful, so we say ITC.
Yeah.
You just gave me an idea for an experiment, so I gotta...
I've done a video loopback, and it gives me a headache watching that constant rolling on the screen. But I've gotten faint images with it, but I know some people that'll get like full on smiling people but video ITC is a grueling process, I think.
Yeah, no, you just gave me an idea because Aiden collects old school portable TV devices.
Oh yeah, I've got one down here in the floor, and then I'll take my camera that I'm on now and put it right into the video screen, and that's video loopback.
I'm gonna have to do that next time.
Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth wants to know, do you ever have multiple recorders and then compare? I've started doing that, which has very interesting results. Last night we tried 5 devices and only one picked up a possible EVP, which we were in the process of analyzing.
Yeah, and you'll find out, not all of those devices will pick up that EVP. So they'll pick up maybe one, or it'll be carried over. They'll complete the sentence or the phrase on a different device.
Yeah, that presentation we did, was it December, where we went over EVPs from some of our investigations? We had one where he says, "Good morning," in the master bedroom, and then the camera at the bottom of the stairs caught it. But those are the only two that got it.
Yeah.
So-
And because of that, that's why when we start it and we have, if depending on the size of the house, is we'll either clap real loud so that way we know they're all synced, or we'll blow an air horn if it's a really large location.
Oh,
Because then we know from the
Yeah.
time of the air horn, this EVP recorder captured it at 10 seconds. Then we go to the other recorders and check at 10 seconds to see if they captured the EVP from that point of time.
and we've had to check timestamps, like when we were discussing that
The
we
shotgun.
believe was a gunshot. It's like, what? I mean,
Mhm.
what was that? And we checked, timestamped how many cameras do we have that night? 5, I think. None of the other ones got it except the one in the master bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a trick I learned when we filmed the TV pilot. Every time before we went to go film, they had multiple cameras up, and instead of using the clapboard, the
Yeah.
producer would clap his hands real loud
All right. That's really
sync.
cool.
to sync up all the cameras and all the audio.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Write that down for we got a fun investigation coming up in weekend after next. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it's coming.
We're going back to the Lotes house in Franklin, Tennessee for the weekend. So excited.
Oh,
Is that
sounds
the one
fun.
where you were a Union soldier and were attacked, or?
Yep.
Choke?
I'm not wearing the uniform this time.
What you need to do is wear a
Are you
Confederate one
sure?
just to see what happens.
I'm going to apologize because the EVP where he says he'll hurt me
Right.
after I got choked. I felt, oh my God, it broke my heart hearing that. I'm such a.
Bring him some cigarettes and a shot of whiskey. He'll be happy.
I'm going to say, I will not harm you in any way.
Just be careful. He might follow you home.
Oh, God. Yeah. Only if he can mop and do dishes. And I haven't found one yet that
Do some
can.
laundry.
These spirits need to start paying rent.
Mhm. I know, right? Buy me some eggs.
This is a good one.
Jeff wants to know, have you ever captured EVPs that might mimic people on your team and you know it isn't them?
I have had it with the spirit box on several occasions. Even had Erica that was on our team. Her son's voice came through the spirit box at an investigation, and it wrecked her. And she had to leave and go ground herself outside and call him to make sure he was okay. And he had a fender bender on the way home from work, which was very interesting. But I've heard my voice coming out of the spirit box. I've heard people I was with, their voice coming out of the spirit box, but I haven't heard one on an EVP yet. But I'm sure it could happen.
Yeah,
But
we did an investigation for a poor client. I felt so bad for her. She was in her 70s and she would cry all the time that she wasn't crazy. But the only piece of evidence that we got in the we did 2 investigations, was an EVP, and the video camera my husband was holding was facing her and she was standing right next to me. But the EVP recorder said, "Get out," in her voice.
Oh yeah.
And no one was talking at the time.
But you think about how long has a spirit been on the other side? Do they remember what their own voice sounds like? Or are
Probably
they
not.
using the vibrations and the frequencies and the pitches of the people in the room to create the EVP? We don't know, but it's possible.
Right. Or they're
Well,
used to hearing her voice,
Target,
so
y'all,
they did
and
it.
just wanted her to.
Yeah.
She projected.
Or yeah. And we have gotten projection EVPs from people that were alive but in distress in the house before. The case where the father was drugging the mother and the children, and we got the daughter's voice on recorder twice in the house while they were gone because we made them leave. And she was projecting. She needed help. So her subconscious was projecting that voice in the house because she was in distress. So you don't have to be a spirit. But then on the juxtaposition of that, you got, are we self-manifesting some of these EVPs?
Yeah, and actually, when you guys were talking about that, I wanted to bring it up. I did an interview yesterday with the founder of Anubis Paranormal Research Society on my other show, and we got on the topic of conducting experiments for that.
Yeah.
And what we had decided that we want to try is to just kind of create a script of something you want to read, and have the whole room silent, but have the audio recorder going while you're reading it and thinking hard about what you're reading. And then the other thing too was to use an ovilus and think of a word to see if you could project it onto the ovilus.
Well, they have done experiments about mentally affecting random number generators, how we can affect those to project certain numbers. Of course, it never works with the lottery with me, though.
No.
But that's over my educational grade, some of that stuff.
I'll do the experiment and I'll let you know.
Yeah, that's Lloyd Auerbach education grade right there.
Yeah. Well, while I'm laid up, I have nothing better to do.
Any more questions?
No, we're actually caught up. They've been very quiet tonight.
Everybody's sick of winter, probably. God knows I am. It's been gray in Georgia since November.
We've been sunny, but in the 30s.
Really? In Florida?
It gets up to 60 during the day, but at night it's been in the just at freezing.
I went to my son to school the other day, and I hadn't seen the sun in so long, and I was just like, "Why is it so bright?"
But it doesn't stay out long enough to enjoy it. It's gone.
Yeah, it didn't last.
Stephanie, that was great. I'm still going to ask you to keep analyzing these, because that's still like, what?
Well, I had to stop myself. There's still so much more that we have put in there.
Yeah. If people something we could talk about sometime maybe is how to pull a clip when you put it on Audacity and you just want this little piece, how to cut and get rid of everything. And
see, that could be a live demonstration. That would be really cool. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is one thing I learned in the class that I took, and I actually have the example that they shared with us, is to use Audacity to play the clip backwards. And you actually, like, if you think you hear something but you can't quite make it out, they said to play it in reverse. And the example that they showed us, it was a Class A EVP once we put it in reverse.
Fascinating.
Do you hear it in reverse, or do you play it in reverse?
You play it in reverse.
Okay.
Yeah, you can play in reverse on Audacity. Now, how I learned to pull clips on Audacity is from Robert Murphy from Elite Paranormal. He did an amazing 2-video series on just how to do that, but I don't know if he still has his YouTube page up for Elite Paranormal. Now, I'm not sure. If he does, go on and look for his Audacity tutorial on just that, because it was very clear and precise. I mean, if I could learn from it, then anybody can. But it's so you can just cut out what you want.
Yep.
And how to
that's probably how I learned.
Yeah, I mean, I think I posted that video to our team. Said, here, this is how you do it, but I don't know if the video is still up or not. I know he's gone through team transition stuff.
If not, I could reach out to him and he might be able to send the presentation on it.
Yeah.
If not, do it.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Sunshine has another question. How often do you get a Class A EVP? Like, if you're recording every week, do you expect to capture something good most times?
I'll say we get a lot of good EVPs. Now, we have a camera system. Our DVR system, all the cameras have mics, and they are amazing mics at picking up EVPs. We may sound like garbled marbles, but the EVP sounds like someone's talking into the camera. Now, I've written to Lorex to ask them what are the specs on their microphones, and they don't have a clue what I'm talking about, it seems.
They're like, you're using our just for what?
So, but I don't think a lot of people believe our EVPs, but you see what Stephanie goes through to say that that's an EVP. But we do get I think a good amount of class A. Now we get a lot of hey, hey, and we don't include those because it's
You
like
to get
almost
so many of those. It's just okay.
so
We're
many
gonna.
of them that we're just like, oh, just ignore those. I mean, which is amazing, but you don't want to send hey to
So,
and that
I guess.
raises.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
This is a point too about the people we have on our team.
it's an energy.
Our energy is very high. We have most of the members on our team are psychic mediums. So I don't know if that contributes to
I think so.
all the EVP evidence that we're able to capture. I know that we had an older system, and we went to, the old historic Jasper jail.
Yeah.
And I remember reviewing those cameras. It was like, it was horrible. It was,
no sound.
it was none at all. Oh God. Yeah, and the sound was horrible too. I don't remember ever picking up any EVPs like they are now with this system. On one, maybe it was just an old prehistoric system, but
it was. Also, I think what helps too is your intention at your investigation, setting your intention and announcing to the spirits that be what you're there for and what you would like. We have an opening statement we always read while we're here. We're here to do research. We would like to establish communication with you. We're not here to harm you, blah, blah, blah. Please, if you would, communicate with us. I think that possibly helps too, maybe, because we do it at every investigation.
Yeah. So to branch off to that real quick before we get to Jeff's question is, what is the best Class A EVP you've captured?
Oh, God.
I know what mine is, and I'll share that in a minute, but I want to know what your guys' is.
I like the one that he says, tell her, seduce her. And it was in the woman's bedroom. That one just gets me every time because it's in like a British voice. And it's like, why are we getting a British dude in this lady's house? I like that one. And then the other one I want is, they know. That says a lot right there. They know. It's not a big EVP, but they knew that we knew that they were there. I love that one.
I don't know. I would have to really think on that because we have captured so many good ones, and just when you think that the holy grail of all EVPs, you get something a little better, a little bit longer, a little bit clearer, more clear. And I don't know, maybe it's I analyze them and log them so much that it's like dumping that data file and moving on to the next thing. But
one that we got
together.
Lake Lanier, the big house, that directly relates to one of the people in the house where the child's voice says, are the kids at home? Where's
that was a good one.
Her name? It says her name. And we did not tell the clients what it said. We played it and she says, we heard it from the very start. We knew what it said. And it's like, wow. And it says, are the kids at home? Where's blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That one is fascinating to me.
Yeah. For me, it would be, we were in Vegas investigating at a location that was, I would say, less than a mile from where Tupac was shot. And someone had said, hey, wouldn't it have been cool? And I don't know why. Something told me not to turn my camera off, or I just, stupidly didn't turn my video camera off. But someone, while we were walking into another room, and all you see on my video camera is the ground as we're walking. And you hear them say, wouldn't it have been cool if we could have communicated with Tupac tonight? And immediately after, we get an I'm right here. Oh. Clear as day.
That's great.
Yeah, and even when I played it for other people, their eyes did exactly what Stephanie's doing right now, like, oh, as they're looking at me.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think if I could capture that would have been my favorite one too.
Yeah, and it's one of those, I keep holding out hope that it was him, but.
Now this kind of, goes with another topic, but different, of ITC and spirit box communication, of spirits not telling you the truth. There's a famous ITC person on YouTube who, as soon as a celebrity dies, he's talking to them.
Mhm.
I already
First
know who
of
you're
all,
talking about.
I'm not mentioning names.
Quit outing me.
No.
Have you talked to Lisa Marie yet?
No.
He probably has. I haven't checked, but I'm sure he's already.
He has.
He has.
He has.
He has.
Yeah.
God Almighty! And people
She
believe
wasn't
it.
even. She's not. She wasn't even in the ground. I mean,
Yeah, she was still on life support, and he's still talking about it anyway.
wow.
So, yeah, so spirits will lie to you. They will trick you. They will try to fool you. You know, some people take the stuff so literally. Oh, it's so and so. It's so and so. Like, nah, that you can't believe. I mean, you have to use critical thinking when you're getting this stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. And the same thing goes with, I know I had someone on my show a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about a client of his who reaches out to her husband. I mean, he just passed away a couple months ago.
Wow.
And she suddenly, after several months, I mean, she put cameras up in the hopes of capturing him in her home. She leaves a digital voice recorder running all day and talks to him as if he's there, sets a plate for dinner. And she started getting responses in her husband's voice. And it was like, you can't be sure that that's him.
No, because she's putting out an invitation.
Right.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
this lady wants to talk to us. You know,
Yeah.
let's pretend like we're her husband.
Yeah. And him and his team were finally like, we can't help you if you're going to keep reaching out to him.
No.
Okay. Jeff asked, have you ever captured an EVP immediately before a spirit box response saying the same thing?
I can't remember specifically.
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, we may have. I just can't recall a specific instance.
I mean, listening to footage when you're reviewing Spirit Box, it's that, and you're trying to make out at reviewing, and you're trying to pick up what's coming through in the Spirit Box. I can't recall.
Yeah. There's a topic that I'm gearing myself up to preparing a presentation on, is rescue mediumship and crossing spirits, which is a controversial topic, and I want to do a presentation on it. It's just I'm trying to, I got to think about it, and then I got to get into it. But where we have done some of this and gotten feedback immediately saying thank you, we love you. One that says thank you, Philip. I mean, and it's as clear as can be. So
they're always saying Philip's name too. He'll come in the room and they'll be like, Philip, hey Philip.
And I think a lot of that has to do with my early days in ITC. When I started ITC collaboration, we were doing group experiments, the black box experiment, the code word experiment, and I had all these people talking to the spirits simultaneously, and we're trying to get communication teams together. So I think they kind of got to know me at the time.
And I'd be careful with Philip on an investigation. If they're calling his name, he's probably bringing him from home.
Well,
he tells them to stay back.
we say we only want the spirits or entities in this location to communicate. Anyone else, please step back and let us do our work. And whether they listen to us or not is something we say.
Yep. Okay.
We have learned that we got a groupie.
Yeah, we got a girl that follows us around, particularly attached to one person. But yeah.
Rich wants to know, how do you handle help me EVPs? Oh, those are the most heartbreaking ones.
Yeah. If we're doing spirit box and we hear help, you can go a little further. Like, who needs help? Do you need us to help you? Are you lost? Do you those kinds of questions. If it's just an EVP, by the time we've heard it, we're already home and I'm reviewing so there's not much you can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we were doing a location. We had a spirit box and we had a woman's voice say, "Help me." And then immediately after, a man's voice said, "Shut up."
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. And it was like, we tried to get her to talk, but after that point in time, she wasn't talking to us. And it was like, oh.
If
Oh,
something
that
like that
reminds-
happens, I try to say, if you can hear me, he has no control over you.
Mhm.
The dimension that you're in, he cannot hold you. You have complete free will to come and go as you please. You may think he has control over you, but he does not. I try to do a little spirit therapy. You don't know if it works, but you've got to try something. I mean, I don't want to get over there and somebody go, well, I said, help me. And you didn't do nothing. It's like, oh.
And then we're the ones calling, "Help me."
Help! Oh, I'm going to be saying all kinds of things. Trust me.
Oh, Elizabeth wants to know, we find children are great on the EVPs. Do you find you get more children coming through?
Stephanie?
Sometimes we do have children that come through. You have to be very careful though with EVPs that contain children on them, because a lot of the lower vibrational entities, the ones that you don't want to communicate with, will mimic children, because we are fond of children. We want to help children. So, if they want our attention, but they have a sinister agenda, something, if we're there to help, they're trying to, it's just a darker, I don't know, what do you call it?
Your trust.
Exactly.
And
Okay.
they gain your trust and get your guard down, then they can manipulate you. So sometimes you have to be careful. But when we get, if it's an EVP on a recording, we're not hearing it until we get home. And I've downloaded all the video, put it on our Dropbox, and tell everybody to pick a camera. So at that point, there's nothing we can do.
Right. And could it be
I don't want to
that
see people and be like, if you hear children run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, could it be that they come across? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
You quit lagging.
It's a location that we are aware of that had children who passed. Then that's something that's different. Then we're expecting to hear a few children EVPs. But if you're not aware of any children passing or possibly getting sick and moving on from that patient, I'm very wary of children voices on EVPs.
If we're going to the Lodes house, they had 2 children that died, and we kind of do some experiments targeted towards the children with trigger objects and different things, and the spirit balls on the floor.
Fidget spinners.
Yeah. So, and I finally found the rag doll I was looking for without the face that looks, a child from the 1800s would recognize it's a doll, So I'm taking that this time. Because if you take a Barbie, they're like, what the hell is, it's kind of freaky to a child.
Yeah, take a jack set or marbles.
Well, the last time we went, was it the Hamilton house? We took a teddy bear, but the teddy bear was sitting on a trigger tray, so it had a wire around it. And we actually, when we went back and reviewed, we heard an EVP talking about that teddy bear. The EVP said, "There's a wire on it," so they can see things, and they thought that was strange. Like, there's a wire, so. It's just amazing the things that you'll pick out.
Yeah, I know one location. We actually took those old school wooden blocks that had the letters on it, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We took those with, and I stacked them up as just a simple pyramid. And I was like, if you're here with us, knock them over. And what sucks is this was the location that didn't allow video cameras, and it knocked it over. And I was sitting there like, do it again. And as I'm building them back.
Yeah.
But yeah, bring those with. Kids love those.
We've tried Etch-a-Sketch before just to experiment with us. I think we got like a line, but you experiment, try it. You never know what's going to work. Something may work.
What also works is those balls that have the electricity shooting out.
Yeah, plasma balls.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Different than cat balls, because I know Jeff's. And okay, and Sunshine wants to know if you know any credible groups in San Francisco Bay Area she could join.
I know someone in San Francisco. I don't know if she's got a team, but Mariah Cano. I never know if I'm saying her name the right way. She's a psychic medium and paranormal investigator. You can see her on the Netflix documentary series, The Afterlife. She's on there, but she's in San Francisco. She may be able to direct you. Let me pull up her name here.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, if not, I know Dr. Jeff Dwyer. I mean, he was on the early episodes of Ghost Adventures, but I'm friends with him, and he lives in that area as well and has done many books about the haunted history of that area. He doesn't have a team, but he could also direct you, and he has an actual website that you could go to.
Oh, so say that name for her or type it in.
It's Dr. Jeff Dwyer, and he's actually a heart surgeon, but also a paranormal investigator.
That's cool.
That's enough.
Because during COVID, he had to give up paranormal investigating for a while because he was working in the hospital.
Oh, shit, I bet. Now San Francisco's underwater. Is she in San Fran? I hope you're all right. Yeah, I don't know of any teams from San Francisco.
No.
Sacramento, Pasadena. Yeah. Just try Google it, San Francisco Paranormal Investigators, and see. Or look, contact American Paranormal Magazine, because they're doing state-specific issues. Y'all have to watch out for the March one, is all I'm saying. But they would know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know Ghost Stop also has a list on their website of teams in each state. And
check Facebook pages. I mean, if you go to their page and they've got blood dripping down the title and all that stuff, just pass that by.
Yeah. Or if they have
some creepy name.
Or if oh my god, yes.
Wow, now that is a show we need to do.
I'll get so frustrated on that.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on a photo, just like your EVP one. I'm working on a photo analysis one.
Good.
I lost you both for a second.
I think StreamYard's got issues too, because this was fine, and then because my Facebook was working, my email was working, and it was just StreamYard went down. So
yeah, I know StreamYard a couple weeks ago had issues during the daytime, and we couldn't even air my show during the daytime, and it was like, oh well, I needed an extra day off.
Tammy, oh my god, I don't have my glasses on. Christine, hello. She's joined us. Some more questions.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left.
And then I can eat my yogurt bar.
I can take Tylenol and go to bed.
Oh, yeah, bless your heart.
They gave me a new physical therapist today, and she was brutal.
Oh, one of those, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, my dad had that surgery last year, and I've never seen my dad cry, but one day I picked him up from PT, and he looked like he was bawling.
Yeah. I do have to say I'm recovering faster from this one.
That's good.
And I think it's because this time they used a robot-assisted surgery, and the robot did the surgery. And the doctor also took me off of pain meds after 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I've only been on Tylenol.
And you got to be careful with your stomach with the Tylenol, too.
I know, but it's the only thing I could take with my kidney disease.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of stuck.
Somebody.
You'll feel better, though.
Was there a question?
Where?
Elizabeth Tardy.
No,
Talk about
holy
your-
crap! You guys are all okay. We are in summer here in Melbourne, so brush fires are our issues.
Oh, brush fires. That's terrifying.
Oh, Jeff has a question.
Oh.
You can always
And
count on Jeff to ask a question.
Elizabeth said, talk about your most heart-stopping location.
Oh,
Ooh.
there we go. I didn't see a question mark, so I didn't even think of it.
Oh, okay.
Our most heart-stopping one.
Well, Lloyd's house, the Travel Channel has it listed as the second most terrifying house in America. I found it far from terrifying, but it's all in how you approach things and your intentions. Now, it was extremely active and EVP, but it was not terrifying. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, define terrifying.
I mean, terrifying is me being picked up and thrown across the room.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not terrifying.
As long as my back didn't get hurt, I think would be really cool.
It is if you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
I
For me, it would be the Florence Mine, and that was more of a psychic attack versus a actual physical attack.
Mine was the physical attack at the old school when I got gut punched and it bit me over and I couldn't breathe and I was like crying. That was terrifying. But it was after I realized I was still alive and not possessed. I was like, that was really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had an emotional one.
Yeah.
Emotional. At Hamilton House,
Mhm.
I actually cried, like just broke down crying during our EVP. And it wasn't me. It was the slaves that
Yeah, the one in the basement.
lived in the house and on the property. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
that
all saw all the people with abilities on our team. What are you picking up? I said, hers over there in the corner. You know, we all got her, this lady.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some. She answered a question. We asked her if she was the cook, and she did respond on EVP, but I can't remember what it was now. It was over a year ago.
Yeah.
She said yes. Did you say yes? Were you the cook? And I believe she said yes.
Yeah,
But
we're
we
down
told her
in the fireplace would have been a kitchen, I think.
Yeah.
Because the
And
kitchen at that time
we told her what year it was. The war was over. She could leave. She didn't have to stay there. She was no longer required to be in that house. So she may not be there. Might be why they stopped doing investigations there.
the mold chased off.
The mold chasing off. Yeah, I was just like, look at all that mold. Yes.
And
What was
we
the
have
next question?
Yep, we have time for one more thing. And Jeff says, I have a good experiment for EVPs posted on the WLF page. Too much to type. Stephanie, could you please describe it if you've seen it?
Okay, so the very bad memory. I'll have to go and refresh. I don't know if I've seen it.
What we'll have to do is have Jeff come on and actually explain it one day.
Yeah, because I want to know what it is. Oh, Jerry reminded me, we asked the cook if she made cornbread, and she said yes.
Okay, that's what.
Yeah.
Cornbread.
Yeah, I don't know what experiment that is, but you need to copy and paste it so I can see it.
Yeah, email it to me, Jeff, if you don't mind sharing it to me. And I won't share it to anyone else unless you want me to.
Yeah, I apologize. Oh, here it is. Okay. That's a beefy question if that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes.
We got for you. And we still need to do our closing.
EVPs that are negative in nature are lower on the frequency spectrum than those that seem to be positive. Okay, so when the EVP,
He brought that up to me once.
Would EVP negative in nature like get out be lower on the frequency than something that says I love it?
No, I don't believe so, because it's still in that frequency hertz of below human hearing range.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, it's still in that whatever up to 20 hertz. So I personally, I don't think that would make a difference if it's coming from a disembodied. I mean, if it's coming from EVP, not disembodied voice, we can hear disembodied voice. EVP, we don't hear, so that's below our human hearing range. So it's still going to be down there low, regardless if it's a hello, how are you, or get the hell out. I think it's still going to be in that same frequency range.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from a scientific point of, I would think.
But there's an emotional factor too. So how do we perceive something as negative? Get out. Hey, get out. Joking around, or get out. Something that's got more to it.
Or get
out.
And
also, how do we know how the spirits feel in the afterlife? Do they feel like we do in real life?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if they're still in the earth plane and not have ascended,
they
gone
still carry
to the light, I think they take those emotions and baggage with them, and that's why they're still here. If they'd let it go, they would have moved on.
That's why we need to play the song "Let It Go" when we go to investigations.
Oh gosh, we got to pay rights for that, for saying that.
I actually have a few people I planning on hunting. I might be around for a little bit.
Well, we only have a few minutes left, so real quick, Stephanie and Philip, you guys are both on the same team, so you guys can share, whoever wants to share, where they can find you.
We're everywhere. We're in your nightmares. We're on Facebook.
Okay.
We're on Facebook, YouTube. Our website, Georgia Paranormal Investigations, is online. Ghost Ed is not about our team. It's just Stephanie is brilliant at this stuff, and I just thought she'd do a wonderful presentation, and she did. So thank you for doing it.
Yep. Thank you, Stephanie.
I still want to have you analyze all our EVPs, so that stuff's still over my head.
And I'm holding on to a whole bunch I'll send your way when you're done with Phillips.
Love it.
We'll keep you busy. Thank you, everybody, again for watching us. You can follow us on Facebook at Ghost Education 101, and our YouTube channel. I am working on still rebuilding it, but that is also at Ghost Education 101 on YouTube. And I'm actually even going back to our videos that we did 2 years ago when we first started. I'm putting up there slowly, so make sure you go there to check out all of our videos that we have done. In 2 weeks, I'm excited. We will be returning on February 1st. Our guest will be Todd Bates. He's an author. He wrote The Haunted Voice, which is about his personal experiences in the paranormal field. He's an amazing guy. I talk to him every week because he's my producer for the radio show, and he's also a radio host as well. So he'll be joining us to talk about his book. If you guys want, I will put the link up to get his book on our Facebook page. So that way, if you guys want to get a copy before we have him on the show and read it, you guys can go ahead and do that. If you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to us. And again, thank you, Stephanie, for helping out. And Philip, as always, it's fun chatting with you every 2 weeks.
It's a party here at Ghost Ed.
It definitely is. And everyone have a great night, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everybody.